my body's ability to take glucose out of my bloodstream into my cells has been maximized by over 600%. So this is a dramatic change.
Yeah.
Something that many people living with diabetes find to be, shocking and impossible. Like, how is that possible? How is this guy eating all the food that I've been told not to eat? How is he eating, bananas and persimmons and mamey and black samote and cherimoya, you name it, and seeing excellent blood glucose readings? Like, how is this possible? What's going on? And the real science, the real thing that's going on is insulin sensitivity is being maximized on a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet.
Anastasia. Rawr. So for people that don't know you, okay, so I've known you for a couple of years. I think you're fantastic. I love what you're doing, spreading the word about healthy living, especially when people can be so confused about it. And a lot of doctors don't really know the best advice, but you're living firsthand with type 1 diabetes. So for people that don't know you and what you're up to, if you can give them a quick overview.
Yes, so I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 12, just about to turn 13. So that was about 20 years ago now. And for people who don't know the difference between type 1 and type 2, I'll give a brief summary. Basically, people living with type 1 diabetes, our beta cells inside our pancreas have been damaged. We do not produce sufficient quantities of insulin, many of us producing close to zero. And you can get that validated through a C-peptide test and find out that your beta cells are producing basically zero insulin, and that's the camp that I'm in. My body does not help me when it comes to insulin production at all, so I have to inject exogenous insulin to manage my blood glucose levels. Now, people living with type 2 diabetes and prediabetes, they are actually producing excess insulin, especially in the beginning as that disease is progressing. Their body is simply not able to utilize the insulin properly. So they're living with insulin resistance, and that is the cause of prediabetes and the cause of type 2 diabetes. So I, of course, being a person living with any form of diabetes, you go and you do research and you start trying to figure out, what foods should I eat to lower my A1C, to lower my fasting blood glucose, to reduce my risk for complications, to get to an ideal weight, to gain energy. Right. And you start learning, and when it comes to diabetes, the standard teaching is you got to avoid carbohydrate-rich foods. Yeah. I mean, that is the teaching. It's like, look, diabetes in general is characterized by high blood glucose readings. That's what's happening in prediabetes and type 2. And of all the people living with diabetes, the vast majority have either prediabetes or type 2. So about 90%. And that's actually over 110 million people are living with some form of diabetes. 80 million people are living with prediabetes and don't even know it. So, and I guess I want to also add to that again, insulin resistance, which is when your body is not able to open the door for glucose to get into your cells. Basically what's happening is you have, the primary cause is excess fat stored inside cells that are not designed to store fat. And that doesn't allow your body to open up the doors and take glucose out of your bloodstream into your cells. Therefore, you have high blood glucose readings. So that is actually the precursor to prediabetes. So there are many people likely listening to this that may be living with insulin resistance, and they don't have prediabetes, they don't have type 2 diabetes, but the material that I'm talking about today, the material in our upcoming book, is absolutely relevant to people. Everybody wants to make lifestyle decisions that enhances their insulin sensitivity. There's absolutely no question about it. So back to my own story. I go and I start learning about, hey, what do I got to do to improve my diabetes health? And I tried a lot of different things over the years. I've tried a Weston A. Price Foundation diet. I ended up trying a Gabriel Cousens, raw for 30 days style diet. I'm sure a lot of your viewers might have seen that movie, know about what he's teaching. And that's like a plant-based ketogenic diet. Before that was even popular and people were talking about that. And so on that diet, I was eating lots of nuts and seeds, lots of oil, and lots of vegetables, lots of celery, lots of greens, but it was a very, very high fat diet. Now, people living with type 1 diabetes, we are fascinating test subjects for this whole concept of insulin sensitivity because we inject insulin, so we know exactly how much insulin we need to metabolize any given meal. We count our carbohydrate intake, and we are constantly measuring our blood glucose values. Many of us are wearing continuous glucose monitors, which report a blood glucose value every 5 minutes. So we have a 24-hour profile of what is happening to our blood glucose levels all day long. So on that diet, on the plant-based ketogenic diet, I was at a 24-hour carbohydrate to insulin ratio of 3-to-1. That means over any given 24-hour period, if I consumed 3 grams of carbohydrate, I would need to inject 1 unit of insulin. Now, fast forward to following a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet, I now eat in a 24-hour period upwards of 22 grams of carbohydrate for every 1 unit of insulin. That's a 600% change in insulin sensitivity. So that means my body's ability to take glucose out of my bloodstream into my cells has been maximized by over 600%. So this is a dramatic change.
Yeah.
Something that many people living with diabetes find to be, shocking and impossible. Like, how is that possible? How is this guy eating all the food that I've been told not to eat? How is he eating, bananas and persimmons and mamey and black samote and cherimoya, you name it, and seeing excellent blood glucose readings? Like, how is this possible? What's going on? And the real science, the real thing that's going on is insulin sensitivity is being maximized on a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet. So, that's a quick summary of my own personal journey. But beyond the diabetes metrics of seeing insulin sensitivity improve, I suffered with plantar fasciitis growing up, which is this painful condition in your feet. You basically walk around and your feet hurt.
Yeah.
And I wore these big blue boots at night to do passive stretching.
Right.
I had cystic acne as a teenager. I did all the treatments you can possibly do, microdermabrasion treatments, all kinds of creams, all kinds of antibiotics, all that stuff. I ended up going on Accutane, which is the most serious drug you can possibly use for acne.
Right.
Your parents have to sign a waiver because some people have committed suicide on that drug. It's very serious.
My God.
So I use that. I had chronic allergies. I took Nasonex and Claritin D year round and still got sick every year. And I had warts on my feet. So these are just like symptoms that were frustrating and a sign of an unhealthy diet.
Yeah.
So anyways, all that has vanished. My skin's cleared up. I don't use any other pharmaceutical medications other than insulin because that is a necessary required hormone and I don't produce enough.
Right.
And so I really have felt amazing. And then now we're sort of sharing this message with thousands of others, and through Mastering Diabetes, through our coaching program, we've helped thousands of people reverse insulin resistance, reverse prediabetes, reverse type 2 diabetes. People get type 1 diabetes under control, type 1.5 diabetes under control.
Yeah.
But in addition, again, to the diabetes metrics, we're reversing heart disease, chronic kidney disease, erectile dysfunction, fatty liver disease, cholesterol, triglycerides, all lowering because insulin resistance is at the core of all those conditions. So it's really this sort of, we call it a silent killer in a lot of ways for people. It's really this condition that, again, millions and millions of people are affected by insulin resistance and they don't know it yet.
Right.
And of course, we have 110 million people affected by it, but we do know because they already have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. So it's really a topic we're passionate about and want to, teach people how to maximize their insulin sensitivity.
Mm-hmm. So how long have you been on this diet? I think it's been a while because
13 years now. So I started eating fruits and greens and non-starchy vegetables and nuts and seeds in December of 2006.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so you were raw vegan for a bit?
I currently, you could classify me as a raw vegan. I don't emphasize that aspect of it. I just say low-fat, plant-based, whole food nutrition, which of course a raw vegan lifestyle would fit into, or a fruit-based raw vegan lifestyle would fit into that. So technically, we call me a raw vegan. But again, I know a lot of people there's a lot of nuances. My mangoes are heat treated. Maybe I had some coconut water. So
right.
Call me 99%, 98%.
Sure. Well, it's clear that you have all these healthy foods behind you and that you're able to thrive on them every single day and that you have for a while. I
Yes.
also think it's great that, I mean, you do have a condition that a lot of people suffer with, and that, again, there's so much confusion around.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful that you could be putting out a book that can help a lot of people.
Yes. Boom. Mastering diabetes.
Yes.
There it is. The revolutionary method to reverse insulin resistance permanently in type 1, type 1.5, type 2, prediabetes, and gestational diabetes. It's all about reversing insulin resistance.
That's awesome. So when is it out? People can pre-order it?
February 18th. People can pre-order it now. And they then get a bonus. We have this kitchen masterclass bonus that we're offering. So if you pre-order, you get that bonus, and you really help us get this book to more people. So if you're going to buy it, pre-order it, because that sends a message to the booksellers and other people who are influential in the book world that this is something people are interested in, and it's going to help the book go further.
All right, quick question. So for people that have diabetes, would it be dangerous for them to switch over to a low-fat plant-based diet immediately? Do you advise people ease in? What is your advice for something like that? Should they consult their doctor? What if their doctor is not helpful, you know?
This is a fantastic question. So people should always consult their doctor, especially if they're using pharmaceutical medications. I mean, no questions asked at that point. If you are on any drugs and you're going to make a lifestyle change, it's smart to talk to your doctor. Now, if your doctor's not helpful, it might be worth looking for a plant-based doctor. And there's two really good websites for that, plantbaseddocs.com and plantbaseddoctors.com. So those are two great websites where you can find a doctor in your local area who is aware of plant-based nutrition and can help you navigate de-prescribing medication. This is a brand new science that is not taught in medical school. Doctors are learning this on their own, on the fly, as they work with more and more patients. The idea of de-prescribing medication. How do you do that safely? Depending on the type of drug you're using, it's going to be different. So you want to be working with a trained professional who has experience in this area. Right. Now, is it smart to change all your meals at once? Now, for a lot of people, that it's not smart. And we actually prefer that people change one meal at a time. And we start with breakfast. Once people have mastered breakfast, maybe it takes a week, maybe it takes 2 weeks, whatever it takes. Once you feel like you have breakfast under control, then you move to lunch. And now you're changing your breakfast, you're changing your lunch, you take time, you do that. And then you do the same thing. Once you're ready for dinner, you're changing all 3 meals and your snacks. And that's actually what we teach in the book with our meal plans. So the book has a insulin resistance quiz, and you can determine your level of insulin resistance. And based on how insulin resistant you are right now, that's going to determine what foods you eat in the beginning as you transition. So there's 2 different meal plans. Those who are very insulin resistant will adopt one plan, and those who are not as insulin resistant can adopt another plan. Now, I personally transitioned all at once. And so did Cyrus. So we also write about that caveat that, hey, if you're the type of person where that's what you want to do, you just jump in the deep end of the pool, then go ahead. Now, some people might find, the biggest challenge is they have issues with digestion of such a big increase in fiber intake. Right. So the gut microbiome, there's a lot of new research coming out on that topic. And a lot of the, well-known plant-based gut doctors are saying how, all that fiber in the beginning can be challenging for many people to digest. So easing into it can alleviate that concern. But in my mind, whatever works, whatever somebody wants to do, they want to jump in, go ahead and do it. But taking it step by step is a good way to go for most people.
Right. Well, wow. I mean, I have so many questions. I'd love to know you have
fire away. Let's go. I love questions.
All right, cool. So I love that your book meets people where they're at. Yes. So I love that it's not just like, this is the way to do it and, screw all the nuance. Yeah. I like that you've coached people, that you've been a speaker as well, so you actually can meet people where they're at. What would you say to people that have had difficulty on a high fruit diet, let's say?
Okay, I'd love to address those concerns. I've talked to a lot of people. Give me an example of a difficulty that maybe they're experiencing.
Okay, so what if they start gaining weight when they eat a lot of fruit?
Okay, so
or like they eat a lot of fruit and they feel like they don't have a lot of energy, or they sit down, their heart's racing, stuff like that.
Okay. So first off, in a situation like that, I would check in with the person and be like, hey, do you want to eat a lot of fruit? Like, are you trying to avoid eating beans and rice and potatoes for any particular reason? And I might want to like address some fallacies that they might have around those foods.
Okay.
I mean, I just do it because I love it. I mean, it's as simple as that. We teach people who adopt a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet, we teach them how to adopt a lifestyle that they love. I am passionate that every person who follows the Mastering Diabetes method should love every meal. It should not be a sacrifice. It should not be a, I should eat this. It's a, I want to eat this. I have tried enough recipes, enough different foods to incorporate foods that I like, I enjoy. That's how I want everybody to feel about it. And that's why I do the fruit thing. I live in paradise and I just love sweet fruit, and that's what I eat the most of. I have some savory meals here or there. But so I'm going to address why is that person specifically trying to do fruit. But let's just say for whatever reason, they have chosen that, yeah, you know what? I like the fruit thing. I want to make it work for me. I have access to these foods. So what do I do? Now, the first thing I would start with is potentially adding in more greens and non-starchy vegetables into every meal that they're eating fruit at.
Non-starchy vegetables, so things like sweet potatoes.
So non-starchy vegetables being things like cucumbers, eggplants.
Non-starchy. Got it.
Yes, exactly. Cauliflower, carrots, stuff like that would be foods that could be added that could maybe help if somebody's having like a sugar rush or something like that. We could work on that. Now gaining weight, I would have, there's a lot of nuances around that. Again, it's very, very rare for somebody to start eating a fruit-based diet, like a truly doing it properly. They're eating nothing but whole fruits and greens and non-starchy vegetables and a little bit of nuts and seeds for that person to gain weight. It's rare, but it can happen. And in that case, honestly, again, that's a rare situation. I'm going to have that person work with a doctor and really try and see what's going on, because there could be, I've heard of some viral issues happening there. And some people could try and, address what's going on in that situation. But
I know a lot of people are afraid of gaining weight. When you talk about people like you and I have talked to a lot of people, they're afraid of gaining weight, or they're afraid of the sugar, or, there's been a big push. There's a documentary about how sugar is bad.
Yeah. Okay. So that's a different story. That's a different story of somebody just having fear around it versus actually happening. Okay. Yeah. Somebody again, we're talking 98, 99% of people who truly adopt this diet of a fruit-based, because of the calorie density, it's going to be naturally calorie restricting, but also satisfying at the same time. Now, the science behind, sugar causing diabetes or causing weight gain is absolutely misguided. If you look at those studies, you read the research that's being cited, in a lot of cases, we're talking about processed sugar that's consumed in a medium to high fat environment, not in a truly low fat environment.
Right.
If you actually look at research where people did consume processed carbohydrate rich food, such as white rice, white sugar, or even sugar water drinks, people who consume those foods in a low fat environment consistently show improved insulin sensitivity.
What? That's so crazy.
Now, in 1971, Dr. Brunzell published a study in the New England Journal of Medicine where he did a sugar water diet. He literally fed people dextrose and water and protein powder. It was a 0% fat diet. 85% of calories coming from carbohydrate, which is from the sugar, and 15% of calories coming from protein, which was the protein powder. And in this study, he found that patients had a lower fasting blood glucose level compared to a control diet, which was a standard American diabetes diet, maybe 35% of calories from fat. Compared to the control diet, their fasting blood glucose levels went down and their insulin requirements also dropped.
Hmm.
So this is completely contrary to what is being taught in the mainstream diabetes community, that if you eat carbohydrate-rich food, if you eat sugar,
Right.
you are going to see a spike in insulin levels,
Yeah.
and then that is going to, make your body store, sugar as fat, and you're going to gain weight. And this is simply not true. So again, to be very clear, in this book, in the Mastering Diabetes Method, we're talking about a diet of no more than 15% of calories coming from fat. And another way to look at that is 30 grams of total fat per day. So when you look at research that actually follow that guidelines, you consistently see weight loss, you see lowering cholesterol, lowering triglycerides, you see people maximizing their insulin sensitivity and reducing medication requirements across the board.
Right. Well, because fat coats the cell, but if it's not coating the cell, then it can do its job properly, which is interesting.
Essentially, I mean, there's a lot of nuances to it, but essentially, yes, consuming too much fat is the primary reason why people are struggling to metabolize the glucose that they're eating in whole foods.
Right. Yeah, I worked at a medically supervised water fasting center where they did the starch-based diet, basically.
Yeah.
And, what I love about these plant-based doctors is they say things like, I love my job because people actually get well, which is so great. Real quick, I know you don't have a ton of time, but what do you think about the resurgence of like Atkins basically equivalent, like the carnivore diet, the keto diet,
Okay.
no fiber diet, killing people? Like, what do you think about that?
So here's the deal. First off, the people who are doing these diets, I got to give them credit. Like, I mean, anybody who's going to take the time and the energy to do a really clean, healthy type of approach, or not, I mean, healthy might not be the right word, but a really conscious adjustment to their lifestyle. They're like, you know what? I'm not going to eat McDonald's anymore. I'm not going to order Domino's pizza. I'm not going to, the Shake Shack or whatever and get vanilla ice cream bar. It's just like, that's the stuff that's really, at the end of the day, like killing us on a public health level. It's the disasters. Now, so first off, we have a lot more in common with these people than we disagree on. It's just that there's some major points that we disagree on, and they're like fundamentally distinct. So first off, I just want to celebrate the commonalities. Now, the idea of eating a ketogenic diet for people living with diabetes, I understand where they're coming from. Like, I get it. And they do get fantastic results. You cannot argue with the results and the published research. People are losing weight. People are dropping their diabetes medications. And again, anybody who loses weight, just by the very fact of you losing weight, you can improve your insulin sensitivity. So that is shown in the research as well. So there's all these great things happening. But the concern that we have is what's going to happen to your long-term disease risk. And we don't know. I mean, that's the truth. We don't know, but we can take a look at research on, especially when it comes to animal-based ketogenic diets. We can take a look at research of what happens to large groups of people over long periods of time that increase their animal food consumption. And you can take a look at that research and see that, wait a minute, you're increasing your risk for heart disease. You're increasing your risk for kidney disease, for fatty liver disease over the long term. That's the major concern. But the bigger point I have is for people who, again, are doing that lifestyle, is if you want to, you can follow a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet. You can eat potatoes. You can eat rice. You can eat beans. You can eat bananas. You can eat apples. You can eat persimmons. You can eat these amazing foods and achieve the exact same results. We get the same amount of incredible weight loss when people stick to the diet. We get the same, a bigger change in insulin sensitivity. We get the same drop in A1C levels. We get the same reduction in diabetes medications. And this is shown in the research dating back to the 1920s. So my message here with the Mastering Diabetes book, with our coaching program, with our free education, everything we're doing is trying to bust the myth that people living with diabetes, people living with insulin resistance, should avoid carbohydrate-rich foods. Because that is flat out not true. And the research has demonstrated that over and over and over again. I'm seeing it in my personal life. So is my co-founder Cyrus, and so are thousands of people who've adopted our program. And the research has been consistent all the way back to the 1920s. So that's really my message to people doing the keto craze. It's very popular, there's no question. And I'm not here to be anti that or what you're doing is wrong. I'm here to send an invitation, an open arms here approach to, hey, if you want to eat these foods, you can actually get the same results. You can be more satisfied, and you can set yourself up for long-term success, because the longest lived people on the planet, the people who have shown longevity, ate a plant-based diet. There is not an example of long-lived people who decided to avoid carbohydrate-rich food. Said, you know what, I have got to limit my consumption of potatoes and rice and beans. That doesn't exist. So you're playing with fire, in my opinion. So it's a Russian roulette type of thing there. Short-term results, don't think it's going to pan out in the long term. And if you want to do this, if you want to, have that experience of getting to eat a banana and see your blood glucose 2 hours later perfectly in range, this is how you do it. You do it through low-fat, plant-based, whole food nutrition.
Sure. Why go for fast food when you can go for instant food?
Boom. There you go.
That's cool. Importance of exercise. Can it quicken results for people?
Absolutely. Daily movement is part of the Mastering Diabetes method. So it's broken down into 4 components: low-fat, plant-based, whole food nutrition. We have intermittent fasting, we have daily movement, and we have decision trees. So daily movement, and again, I want to emphasize, it doesn't have to be intense. The more intense, the better. If you're doing exercise we recommend 30 minutes a day where you can't sing or you couldn't speak to a friend, like you lose your breath. Like, that's good. That's what you want to get to. We got to understand, if you're a person who you're not moving at all, and you just start walking will have a dramatic impact on your blood glucose control. No questions asked. It is a very, very valid and healthy form of activity. So start there. People with diabetes, the best thing to do is walk after your meal. That's the best time to do it. Now, as you build up, if you're looking for the ideal exercise, we're going to say it's cardio and strength combined. That's going to be the best type of exercise. And we know people are busy, so it doesn't have to be 2 sessions a day. It doesn't have to be, super intense and take a big portion of your day at all. Just walking can be a great place to start. And even as you build up your intensity, 30 minutes a day, 30 to 45 minutes a day is more than enough.
And it sounds like you have a course as well as a like something to hold people's hand to really step them through.
Yes. So there are a lot of questions that come up when people start changing their lifestyle, and they're nuanced and they're integrated to their own life. So that's the reason we started Mastering Diabetes as a coaching platform, to walk people through the individual nuances that happen when transitioning to a low-fat, plant-based whole food diet with all forms of diabetes. So we do this via our online coaching that people can access from all over the world. We have an online course that walks people through the change step by step with videos and PDFs and recipes and a lot of tips and tricks that we have learned over the years in our own experience and working with thousands of others. And we also have a private community online. So you can do it in Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, you can do it through the online course. But you get to ask questions of our coaches, and we will answer them within 24 hours. So it's really that hand holding that you were talking about, because we all need that. We all need that. I mean, I know I certainly would have benefited from this exact program when I was transitioning, but I had a coach. I signed up for an online coaching program, and it was a private coach that I emailed with every single day and reported what was going on. And that changed my life.
Yeah.
So we also do live video conferencing. We use Zoom so people can see our coaches and they can have a live interaction. We do that twice a month. Nice. People who want private coaching, we have that, small group coaching. And we also have a DIY program, which is for people who just want to start out all on their own. They just want the information. Just, hey, just tell me what to do and I can do it.
Yeah.
Well, the DIY program, that's exactly that. And so we have options for whatever level of support people are looking for. They can get it on the Mastering Diabetes website.
That's so good to hear, because I do have people that have diabetes come to me, but I've never struggled with that. So I'm definitely going to be selling them to you.
Awesome.
If you have everything. So.
Yeah, Just tell them to pick up the book. I mean, that's what we hope is the gateway to helping a lot of people here. It's, you know, super affordable and it's very comprehensive. We have over 800 citations in this book. This is an evidence-based approach. It's not just something we made up and said, oh, it worked for us, so you should do this. It's like what happened in our body corroborates with what the research has shown. Again, it's almost 100 years of evidence showing the same thing. You eat more whole carbohydrate-rich food, you will maximize your insulin sensitivity, period, end of story.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any top recommendations for documentaries that people could watch, or?
Yes, absolutely. So start with Forks Over Knives.
Yes.
And then you could watch, I mean, What the Health is very interesting.
Yeah.
The Game Changers is very interesting. And then if you want to go into the other aspects, not just sort of like health and nutrition, the two I would recommend are Cowspiracy and Earthlings. You watch those two, and you'll have, like, you know, Forks Over Knives, Cowspiracy, and Earthlings is the trifecta to understand the whole bigger picture. And once you have the information, it's hard to turn back.
And then last question. I know you guys are busy launching the book, and I'm so happy that you are. Do you guys recommend any meetups around the world, or, I mean, how can people find community? Because I find that that's like the last leg that people need. They can eat healthy on their own, maybe if they know the information, but that community can really solidify it.
It's such a great question, and I couldn't agree more. It's such an important point, that in-person community. I think meetup.com can be a good place to find meetups. I think in a lot of cases, some people might have to start it on their own and just start hosting potlucks and really make that community for themselves. But I agree, finding them is tough. I mean, I don't know, maybe you have some recommendations. I mean, I think Facebook groups are good, but not necessarily going to be tied to your local area. So you'd have to type in, so Facebook groups that are designed to be a local meetup, I guess, could be helpful. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. I usually recommend if you can find like one or two people. So like I run challenges, and if you can find somebody in person that can do it with you, or at least then you can like text and meet up or go for a walk or something, or just be able to talk about what you're doing, even if they're not even doing it. I found that I've had people turn vegan just because I like literally report what I'm doing, and then they're like, they get really curious about it. And then suddenly it's two people doing it, and you watch the documentaries and you get educated, and suddenly they're an evangelist. It's great.
I love this strategy.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it works. I don't know. And either way, you know, if they can help to keep you accountable and see what's happening, that being seen and seeing, I think it helps him.
That's fantastic.
Well, I appreciate your time. I also appreciate that your name sounds like a superhero, Robby Barbaro, like straight out of like a comic or something.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. I mean, I'm really glad to be sharing this information with your audience, and I hope people pre-order the book. If they know somebody who could benefit, buy it as a gift. Give it to their doctor.
Well, especially for New Year's, it's coming up.
Yes, absolutely. So pre-order it today and get the big bonus.
Yeah, and the website is masteringdiabetes.org.
That's it. Yep. Cool.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Robby.
See you later.
Bye-bye. Oh, Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah. So if people want to follow us on Instagram, we have @masteringdiabetes. Same thing on Facebook. You just type in Mastering Diabetes, you'll find our page. I'm personally @Mindful Diabetic Robby. So you just type in mindful, start typing in DIA, and I'll pop up. And I love Instagram. I think we all do these days. I share exactly what I'm eating, how much insulin I'm using for people who are interested in that. And we share a lot of our testimonials on there so people can get inspired and see other people that are just like them, you know, going through the same challenges and also maximizing their insulin sensitivity and completely making diabetes a thing of the past for people living with pre-diabetes and type 2.
Awesome.